Welcome back. At this point in time, we're going to take a slight shift in what we've been talking about here and move on to some more issues regarding public information as part of the exercise program and also as part of a response and so forth. For that, Bill, help us out here and give us a little bit of information.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, this has been very interesting. And like I said, we want to keep talking about the media because they are a part of this event that will occur, whether it's a drill or the real thing. And you want to be able to handle them, ready to handle them. So basically, we need to start the slides here. Here they come. Thank you. I apologize. We had a little trouble there. And basically, we refer to this as terrorism, public safety, and the news media, or pick the two of those that seem most alike. And probably most of you out there probably put the terrorist with somebody, and I don't know which one. But anyway, very quickly, what we're hoping to do here in the next 15 minutes or so is expose you to the concepts of how to handle the news media at mass casualty drills or at the actual incident. We're going to look at what we call the 10 Commandments of media relations, understand the need for the free flow of information, and look at the what, where, when, how, where, why, how of dealing with media relations, all of the W's and H's that they want. And also, possibly a new concept, some of the people watching, something about having an understanding of the emergency information system that must be established when you have an incident like this. Have an awareness of the public official's role and the media's role as the messenger during these type of emergencies. And also, very quickly, we want to talk about libel and slander during this. Now, the 10 Commandments of media relations works whether you're dealing with your hometown incident, the car accident with several people hurt, or if you're dealing with the mass casualty type situation. Always be helpful and open with the media. Don't lie to them. Tell them the truth. If you don't have it, don't give it to them. We try to personalize the organization. We had an incident in Tampa recently where I pointed out to the news media who constantly wanted to get in and get past, you know, and talk to some of the people there that, wait a second, we're dealing with people. Yeah, they're firefighters. Yes, they're paramedics. Yes, they're police officers. But you got to understand, they're suffering too. They've just seen a horrible, horrible situation here. We need to let them diffuse for just a few minutes. Also, we want to make sure that we develop our media contacts ahead of time. This is not something that you try to do at the emergency scene. You want to have at least your local contacts in place ahead of time. We'll talk about the national media in just a few minutes. You want to take good stories to the media ahead of time. Let them know about these drills. These are good stories. They want to cover this type of stuff if you let them do it. And when the media does call you, though, don't let them hang and get back to them right away. Give them some type of pager to get a hold of you or something. And remember, during the actual incident, it's okay to say, I don't know what is going on right now. I'm not sure about that type of thing. Let me find out and get back to you. Towards the end of it, once things are starting to get critiqued, if your agency, I use the word goof, but things maybe didn't go as perfect as you'd like to have, confess, repent, say, yes, we realize that was a problem, we're going to look into it. Even during the drill, there are things that necessarily aren't goofs, but like you said, there are things that we want to improve on. Let's take a look at those. During the actual incident, don't use that no comment. We've all seen that way too many times. You know how negative that looks. Avoid that. What I tend to use sometimes is, if I don't want a lot of questions, I use the big dump. I go ahead and I give them way more information than they can digest for a few seconds. That kind of tends to shut them up. And then they have to go back, they have to look for questions and come back to me. So the big dump is basically giving them maybe even more than you think that they want.
Does that potentially present a problem? You know, could they maybe misquote or misinterpret some of the things you're saying?
There is always the chance for the misquote, the misinterpretation, or, as it's called in the business, paraphrasing. You cannot control what comes out in ink or on the videotape, but go ahead and give them the facts and hope that they're working with you on the tape. And of course, the last one on there is watch out for the big one and prepare for the big one, which is that one big question that's going to come up that you think really is going to floor you. What is the wildest thing this lady reporter, this gentleman reporter could ask me, and I need to maybe find out a little bit of information. Try to be ahead of them on that learning curve. Going back to the slides and moving along here, just because we do have a little bit of limited time, the next thing we want to do is, especially since we're talking here with maybe law enforcement persons as well as EMS and fire people, we have to understand and be committed to the open and free flow of the information. Like you said, I can't control what they actually put out there, but by golly, I make sure that the facts get out there. And it is consistent with public safety and law enforcement needs. What I mean by that is letting the people know what we're doing is important, whether it's during an actual incident or during the drill. And remember, Congress cannot even make a law that says, this is right in our Constitution, that we can abridge the freedom of speech or of the press. Now, there is one note here, though. whatever you say, yeah, we can't impede free speech, but we can hold you liable, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit, for what you say and how it's said.
Bill, how about the issue in terms of that emergency public information, that it may be absolutely critical to get some of this data out as rapidly and as quickly as possible to inform the public that here is an ongoing situation and they need to take certain actions to help protect themselves, that it may be well beyond all response agencies' capabilities to do that.
Exactly correct. And in your first few releases, there's probably going to be a couple of things you're going to be telling the people. Number one, is this event stabilized? One of the first words, the first thing I want to tell you is this situation is stabilized to right here. We have it under control as best we can tell right now. The people that are affected have been affected, and this is it. It's not going to go any further. So that stops the mass exodus or problems like that. Number two, don't come here. We're really having enough problems dealing with what we have here right now. Please don't. The police officer probably turn you away. Even if your Aunt Katie, second removed, lives here, we're not going to let you in. Additionally, if it is getting bigger and people do need to take actions, well, look, people, we think we have this stabilized. We're going to go ahead and evacuate to such and such an avenue, such and such a street. But you can't just tell them to leave. When you start and tell people to evacuate or get out, as I'm sure I'd ever hear, reassure, you better tell them where to go. Because if you just tell them to get and you don't have shelters or somewhere else in place, you're going to have a problem. So watch out when you call for those evacuation orders. Now, back to that freedom of speech stuff. As it mentions, if you work for a government agency, you're dealing under the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA, which basically says that you have to release whatever information you have on a certain incident, and we'll talk more about the clarifications on that in just a minute. Most states or local governments will have some type of Freedom of Information Act or an Open Records Act. Every state's going to have a different name for it, but it's kind of the same stuff. And there are about 9 exceptions. The 4 big ones that I noticed are national defense, items that are under investigation. I'm sure the lieutenant here, there's a lot more things that he can't talk about that we can, because we're doing more of the response, he's doing more of the investigation type stuff. If it's under litigation, you probably don't want to talk about it. Medical files. Now remember, the people who are hurt, we're dealing with, they have medical injuries, they have medical problems that for initially is probably confidential and probably don't want to be talking too much about specifics. We can talk generalities, but not specifics. Now, let's move on to what actually, like you were saying, what are we going to feed them? And I use the term feeding the animals because basically when the media gets there, they're hungry. And I refer to the media as animals because when they're hungry and they're carnivorous, they're acting like a pack of wolves. They're coming in, and I say this slightly tongue-in-cheek, but if you've ever been on the hot seat when they're coming in ready to eat and they're looking for information, it feels like you're feeding somebody.
They have a very specific and definite job to do, and that's get information.
They have a very voracious appetite. And a little musical background there to keep us moving along. I hadn't planned for that, but it worked out. Anyway, ask yourself, what do these people need? Well, obviously, the television needs the visuals. They'd like to see there. Now, you're saying, well, gee, we've got the area roped off. We can't let a whole bunch of cameras and reporters in. Consider a pool situation. Get the media together. Say, okay, we can take 1 camera and 1 reporter in there and bring it out, and you can share it amongst yourselves. That pool situation works real nice, and we've used that several times in this area, and that works out real well. Also, they're looking for that sound bite. They're looking for that 7 or 8 seconds of somebody saying something like, holy cow, that was the worst situation, or this, something along that line. The radio, however, needs frequent updates, especially if you're on some type of news radio stations in your area. Every half hour or so, they're broadcasting your story. So if you can keep with them and give them some frequent updates, even if its situation is the same, we have a few more investigators on scene. All the people have now been taken to the hospital, that type of stuff, and we're doing pretty good. The print media, you have to remember, they're looking for details. The television news, they're looking for little short type stuff, but that print media fella, he wants all sorts of numbers and facts and figures. You get to be a little bit more feeding, a little bit more information for him. In reference, though, to this free flow of information that I'm hoping everybody out there agrees with, most of the laws will say that the information will be released in a reasonable place at a reasonable time. A reasonable place and a reasonable time isn't just as you're getting on scene and trying to secure the scene. It isn't at midnight when they're demanding it or whenever. It is what's reasonable for your situation. Once again, taking into consideration the law enforcement aspect, the investigation aspect, because obviously we know that we don't want anybody to get away with a terrorist act because we're trying to just be cooperative with the media.
As well as the 6 a.m., 12 noon, and live at 5.
Live at 5, 6, 7. And then, of course, I'm sure as several others, we have the 24-hour local news channels here in the Bay Area now that we have to deal with. And, you know, and they're a great resource for getting the information out there in that breaking time that you mentioned. Take these actions, do this, do that. But also, they get hungry at midnight.
One example of bad information getting out during a natural disaster is that today happens to be the anniversary date of a disaster that occurred in Pinellas County on this date in 1980. And that was when the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Blackthorn was struck by a freighter in the middle of Egmont Channel. It overturned and sank very rapidly. There was 24 Coast Guardsmen killed, another 23 injured. Somewhere along the line, during the course of our response, information got out through the media that we needed divers to get into the water to rescue the Coast Guardsmen. Well, we had divers, you know, coming from all over the Tri-County area, you know, with all different kinds of apparatuses, and they're ready to jump in the water. And we had our hands full just keeping all these good Samaritans from creating more of a problem.
And Oklahoma City, I believe one of the few people killed after the building collapse settled was a nurse who came to the scene to assist. Now, once again, I don't remember the details if she was summoned or if she came on her own as part of the team. So she came on her own. Hence, yes, the responders who are coming in, the non-agency responders coming in, yeah, can get hurt. So we got to look out for that. And of course, that probably gives police a heck of a lot more headaches too, with all these people coming in trying to help out. Now, the person running the slides, let's see here, where are we at here? There we go. Thank you very much. Additionally, additionally, remember one thing though, when you're dealing with the media, if you want something covered by the media, deny them access to it. Tell them, no, you can't go in there. No, you're never going to give them the information. No, we're not going to deal with you right now. Buddy, they're going to dig. They're going to find it from somebody. And if it's not coming from you, it's coming from an unofficial source. So be prepared to deal with it. And in emergency management, you have to figure out, we talked about roles and purposes. The roles in the news media, as far as we're concerned, during emergency management is an educational tool, like you said, to tell the public what we want them to do and when. Okay? Feeding the animals, who's going to feed them? Well, hopefully your agency has some type of public information officer, and hopefully that public information officer does have some type of training. It's not just the poor booger who happened to grab a certain position as promotion. Oh my gosh, I got to be the PIO also. No, because look at the job description there. Expedites the effective and accurate dissemination of information in news media professional manner. Yeah, that's real nice, but no, it's the guy who gets told by the incident commander, get those cameras out of my face, get them off my responders' back until such time as we can get around to dealing with them. Okay. We should always have that person, that public information person should have good media relations before it starts. They should report immediately to the incident commander. They should come right off for the chain of command type thing. And in these large situations, you're going to need a mutual aid. My agency cannot handle all the media requests that are going to come in from all the nationals and all. And here in Florida, we have a setup through the Florida Fire Chiefs Association where if I have a large incident in Tampa that's going to run for hours or days, I can put out, like you said, an official call through official channels and have public information officers sent in from other fire and EMS agencies to help me deal with all the inquiries.
Okay. Now, what are the benefits, based on what you're just saying? What are some of the benefits of having this type of PIO set up and so forth?
It's great. Not only do we have a group that we already know each other, but also when that PIO comes to town, if he does nothing more than sit down there and answer the phone calls that are going to come in from the out-of-town media, the out-of-town radio stations, everybody wants that personal little soundbite. Okay, they want this type of stuff. Other benefits for properly feeding the animals, okay, you talked about it. Stunt the rumors with facts. We hear the rumors out there. Here are the facts. Because if you're not out there with the facts, the rumors are going to fly. And you need to work on that very quickly. Keeps the officials freed up for other duties and just lets the people know that you are doing something about this, not only at the drills you're preparing, but also at the actual incidents. How are you going to feed them? You're going to put out your news releases. You're going to do interviews, news conferences. If necessary, feature stories. That would be with your drill. Have a feature story created about your drill. Let people know what's going on. Public service announcements. Okay? And just move on. Get your press release written in a proper format to where people are going to read them. These are things that you probably would need to go to maybe a junior college in your area or somewhere and find a place that's teaching how to do these types of things. There's all sorts of media type personnel out there who would probably even work with your agency. If you contact us, say, look, we're going to set up a public information person, but we don't know what that is, and work with your local media and train them.
Okay, well, Bill, thank you very much for that PIO briefing. And with that, folks, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with you very shortly.